sort of like intentions.
No, I mean, I knew Jack could do it. I mean, I know Jack personally now for a long time. So, you know, when you only know an actor through their roles, you don't really know them, particularly a younger actor. Maybe by the time they're 70 and they've done 100 movies, you might have a sense of them. But a younger person you've seen them in a certain kind of thing, you'd be surprised how different they are, what range people really have. So I knew Jack could do this. It never crossed my mind. And whether audiences would like it or not, I don't know. I didn't feel like he was too typecast, like, oh, only they don't want to see him. Because, you know, Jack's a pretty intriguing guy. He's got this rock and roll career going. He's got, you know.
He was great as a bird watcher.
Yeah, he can kind of do anything, I think.
When you were writing this, did you have him in mind as you wrote it, or did you have someone else?
I didn't have any. I usually write with no one in mind because you can't just get any actor. So, no, I had a general idea. It was so long ago that back then I didn't really have anyone in mind, and that's probably why the film didn't get made in 1999 or 2000 because there wasn't the right cast.
Wasn't
on
there
the tip of my tongue anyway?
Wasn't there something about also that the production companies didn't want to back you using actual townspeople as part of it that gave you trouble the first time? And if so, now that you actually had them in it, you actually put them also in acting sections as well. How did that work out or come out of that?
You're talking about that whole gossip element. Yeah, that was the weird thing about the movie. On paper, it just looked strange. There was so much of it. It kept us definitely out of the mainstream. You know, it was like, it really almost kept the film from being made because people were like, well, it's not really a movie. It's all these people talking. It just looked, they all sound the same. Yeah. And I'm like, they won't be the same. They'll be very different, in fact, when you put a real human who you think is interesting and the words come out of their mouth. They're different than the... But you're always dealing with people's limitations, trying to
Were
convince
those
them.
interviews verbatim from what you got out of the locals, or did you kind of creatively go in and tweak it?
All those are scripted, but they improvised in and around that.
But they did come from first-person accounts, or?
Yes, it's in a journalistic level. A lot of those gossip interviews were quotes I got out of the original journalistic notes that Skip Hollandsworth did when he did the Texas Monthly article back in '98 that I read in January '98. So I was reading, just going through his whole file, and I found myself laughing at what people were saying. And then it hit me like, oh, small town, gossip. Of course, that's the way, that would be the cornerstone of the storytelling. Because, I mean, Bernie's not able to talk for himself. He's in jail.
Neither is Mark.
Miss Nugent's not around. So it's kind of them refracted through this town and people's perspectives. And, you know, when you do something crazy like this, you kind of are what everybody says you are, unfortunately, especially in a small town. If everyone says you're this horrible person, I'm sure you don't feel that way in your heart, but you kind of are. And if everyone thinks you're the greatest guy in town, sorry, that's kind of the public record. The unofficial public record is you are what everyone says you are. And you've either gotten on the right or the wrong side of that via your behaviors and if you're playing by the local rules. Bernie likes a small town because he can know everybody and have a connection to everybody. That's why people like small towns. Marjorie would have been much better off in a bigger city where it's not incumbent upon you every time you go to the grocery store to stop and talk to people that you recognize. And she didn't give a shit about anybody. You know, she might have been a little shy. Some people say she was a little shy. But, she was mean and ornery and impatient and just terminally unhappy. But we see a little bit of her happy, and that's the wonderful little honeymoon she has while she was happy there for a time.
Was that Matthew McConaughey's mother?
Yes.
And there is the silver-haired lady?
Cassie.
Yeah.
I've known her for years because I've known Matthew, and as I was doing this, K-Mac, that's her, we all call her K-Mac, she can play. She's great. She's been trying to get in Matthew's films for years. It's kind of an ongoing joke. He's like, yeah, Mom, I'm going to talk to the director. She never does, you know. And so finally, I called her up. Well, I called him first, actually, to get this, you know, Matthew, you going to be okay if I give a part to K-Mac? He's like, yeah, no, sure, go ahead if you think she... But I didn't tell him that they had a scene together. So it's like, he didn't really realize till about 12 hours before we were shooting. He's like, oh, look at the call sheet. Yeah, she's in the scene. Your mom's over your shoulder giving you hell. won't even be acting. I've seen it so much in my life. So
it seems like there is plenty of fodder for an entertaining story just as is, but did you still have to play with that line between a real story and portraying it accurately and using creative license to make it as entertaining as possible?
Yeah, well, I think most of those things were inherent. I didn't have to embellish anything really, and that was sort of our laws. As I worked on it, Skip would suggest some pretty outrageous things. Oh, the funeral home, the hearse hits a bump and the casket goes flying out. I said, no, Dad, this thing is so surreally funny to its core. Let's just play it pretty, straight, or closeted, or whatever you want to say, like, let's play it as is, because I think it was like a good black comedy. It's a tone. Consistency, I guess, is what I was aiming for.
And what did you find out about Shirley MacLaine with this?
Oh, you mean working with Shirley?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
like? She's funny. She said what I think attracted her to the part. She was like, well, I love the fact that after she's dead, she's still around. She goes, that's how I'm going to be.
She's still going.
She goes, no, Rick, if I come into your life and we do this, I'm still, I'm going to be that, and I think I can stand here at the end of the process and go, yes, I think Shirley will be with me always. She's very force of nature. There's really no one who's had a career like hers. It's totally unique.
How about working with Jack Black? Do you guys have like a bromance going on? That's sort of like the big Hollywood thing now.
Just friends.
Friends.
Friends, collaborators.
Yeah.
Yeah, but same with Matthew, same with any actor. If you work with that second time, you kind of trust them.
Yeah.
You trust one another. You're friendly. You have fun. School of Rock Jack was really pushed to his hilt on that. Even though we had like a 55-day schedule or 52 days or whatever, he felt that was the hardest he'd ever worked.
Yeah.
Up to that time, and I was like, God, that was the easiest movie I ever made because I had all this time and support.
Well, he was always on, he's this outrageous
we
character.
Originated it was exhausting for him. Now this movie was the one that drove me crazy because we had 22 days, and he felt like it was the easiest thing he had ever did. Not easy because he worked so hard, but I think the more studio films you do, and you sit in your trailer all day and you come out for an hour and shoot one reverse shot with the light, This is like, all afternoon you're going to be performing 3 music numbers, and in the morning you're going to be killing Shirley, and then it's a full schedule every day. You're on. It's like doing theater. You're just going. Different.
You wanted to play it closeted, because Bernie's not out yet.
No.
And Jack says, I asked him, should Bernie come out? He says, that's his decision.
Yeah, Bernie
is out.
Well, the nephew outed him.
Wasn't it?
Well, it's so clear, I think, to anyone.
Unless you know for sure.
But the film sort of respects Bernie's own, socially, he just, because of his social set, you live in a town like this.
And he wants everybody to love him.
Yeah, and the thing is, people, they all know he's gay, and they love him. I mean, he's in some it's maybe his religious view, his own upbringing. There's something about him where,
in a way, he might have liked to be the subject of gossip, about his sexuality.
It was an intriguing, thing. Everyone has these stories and rumors, and but if it's kind of a Southern manners thing. If you don't talk about your politics, your religion, or your sexuality, people respect it. As soon as you come it up, then it's an open subject. But if you don't, then they're kind of like you're limited to the gossip behind your back. So I mean, I feel sorry for him. I wish he could have, and I think his life would be better, like everyone's. But
the whole film is almost kind of about just everybody's duality in a way. I mean, Bernie, we're going to see it ambiguous in the film.
Yeah.
The townspeople, while they know one thing, they're just going to see it another way, and it's just kind of the way all that kind of falls over, so it fits in.
And there's a core unknowableness to all of us, to everybody. So I think that's it. None of us will ever fully know that crazy relationship between Miss Nugent and Bernie. And just like you don't know, anytime something extraordinary happens, you interview the close friends and relatives, and they go, I never knew. It's like people, it takes a kind of catastrophic event. People die in strange ways, and what was he doing? He had a family. What's he dying in a S&M? You just never know. You never know about people.
I have a